G'day and welcome back. Today I've got three chassis here. These are out of a Philips RF8 radiogram from about 1965 or 66. These are a pretty good radiogram. I think they work pretty well. They look nice too. Now the owner of the radiogram and the three chassis here contacted me and he said, look, I need help. I can't get these repaired. So he drove about 600 or 700 k from up north to bring them to me so I can fix it, and then he went home again. So that's a pretty determined effort, I'd say. Anyway, I'll show you what's going on. This is the original chassis out of his radiogram. This is a spare that he managed to find, and later on he found another spare. This is the one that was in the radiogram. It's got all new capacitors in it. It worked fine for a number of years, and then one day one of the channels stopped working. So this is the one he took in to get repaired. This is the second one, and this is the one that he took in and said, look, use this one for spare parts. The repairer had these for a number of months, and the owner went in and said, look, I need them back. So he ended up getting this one back as the working radio, and this one was pulled to bits. So when he got it, these parts were all in a cardboard box. And that's what he got back. That was his original chassis. There's nothing on it. Now, if it had a faulty channel, why would you pull it all apart? I don't know. There must be a story behind it. I can't even imagine why. But anyway, that's the one he got back. And the repairer said, the one here that you bought in as a spare is working, so just use that one and you'll be fine. When he plugged it in, it didn't work properly. It's still one of the channels wasn't working, I think he said. Now, he charged the guy 175 bucks to do all this, to destroy his radio, give him one that he'd already given to him as a spare parts thing, and that sort of worked, so he just handed it back. My plan is I'll plug this one in, see if it works, see what's wrong with it. If I can get that to work successfully, that'll be fine. Then I'll go over and I'll try and put this one back together, I think. That's my plan at the moment. Depends how I go with that. We'll try and get two working chassis if I can. So, without further ado, I'm going to take this one in and I'll put it on the bench. We'll see if it works. I've got this on my repair bench. There's just a few things before I start. There's a little socket here that's got nothing in it. Now Philips have what I think they call a music center, and it allows you to plug in a microphone, an organ, a tape recorder and something else, and play it through your radiogram. And it's got a little preamp valve here. I think that's a 12AX7. I use that as a little preamp. This one here will be for the record player, I would think, the pickup. It's also got permeability tuning or induction tuning. It's also stereo, so it's got two ECL 86, I think. All right, I'll set this up properly and I'll put some power on. I've connected some speakers here. Now, just looking at the front panel here, I really don't know what any of these are doing. These are volume and tone and balance, I assume. So I've put them all halfway, and this is the on-off switch, I think. Yeah, so that's on radio. Put some power on. I got 237 volts there, dim bulb. We'll see what it does. I can see some glowing in there. I'll try and work out which one is the volume. It's not that one. No. Might be balance, I think. Oh, yeah, there's some humming there. Hang on. I've got an aerial on it. Should be something down here somewhere. Nothing? Nothing at all. I'll just make sure the switch is in the right. Ooh. Well, it's balanced. It's changing one speaker to the other. So both channels are working. There's the antenna wire. So it's getting through. Now I've got it on restricted power, so I'm going to put it on full power because I think it's working all right. I'll just see if that does anything. Yeah, nothing there. So I've just taken the old mixer valve out. I've got another one here. It's just a 6AN7. There's plenty of them around. I don't think it'll be the valve, but I'll just make sure. So I put power on again. That valve doesn't seem to be working as well as the old one. I've just put another one in there. I'll try that one. That's a bit better. So what it sounds like to me is the oscillator's not working because you're getting all the stations but they're muddled together. So I need to test to see if the oscillator's going. I was having a look around the bottom of the boards here. Here's a connection here that's going to ground. It's grounding the centre tap, and that bit of wire there is held on by the flux. There's no solder on it anywhere. There's some more. Look at that. Look at that solder there. Iron strikes here. Solder iron. It's all over the place. It's terrible. That solder there looks dry. These are all melted. It's awful. Look at it. My goodness. Okay, so that may be some of the problem. I've turned the radio up on its side here. It's running. I'll just check the oscillator with using the oscilloscope, and that is not a oscillator. So this is the plate for the oscillator on the 6AN7. Not there. This will be the plate for the actual valve. So that's the radio signal. I can tune that, it'll change. There it is. Okay, so we're getting a radio signal off the tuner, but we're not getting an oscillator. So nothing there. Alright, I'll check the voltages. Now there's the 6AN7 valve, that's the mixer. Pin 8, there was nothing there. Pin 7 had the radio frequency, the RF, coming in off the tuner there. So that part's alright. The problem is in this area here. So the first thing I will check, that's got voltage, well that's working, so I assume that's got voltage on it. The pin 8 should have 75 volts on it, so that'll be the first thing I'll check. There's pin 8 there. I'll see what we got. 49, supposed to be 70. That was the plate, that should have 200 odd, yeah, 204, so that's okay. So something's gone wrong in here, I'd say. Just back on the schematic again, I had 204, supposed to be 210, that's good enough for me. It's going through the coil here, so that's okay, the coil's okay. That's the supply coming in, there's a resistor there. Might be worth checking that. So it's got the 210 there, and it's got too low a value there. So either something's dragging it down, or we'll have a look at that resistor. And that's 39k, 1 watt. Here's the resistor here, between the valve and the little can here, the IF can. I've got one probe on, we'll see what we got. It's supposed to be 39, so it's 43, so that's okay, that wouldn't make any difference. Yeah, I flipped the chassis on its side again. Here's the resistor and the capacitor here, there's the solder joints. They don't look too bad. I'll put some power on. So it may actually have a crack in the resistor or something. Still not working. Might actually have a faulty resistor. Now I've been playing around it here, trying to get any sense out of this, and I can't. This capacitor here's got a little crack around it. I don't know if that's going to make any difference. There's something wrong with this, either the resistor or the capacitor or the board. I'm not sure which. I'm going to change those two first. That'll get them out of the way. That'll also reconnect all the joins that they make. I'll see if that fixes it. Alright, I've replaced those two. I didn't have a 39k. I put a 33 in. I've just tacked it in. I'll get a 39 at the shop later on. So what have we got now? 60. I'm not sure what's going on. When I played around up the top with that resistor, it went up to 70 volts. Now it's just stuck on the 50 odd volts again. I'm going to just resolder all these connections in this area here. Something's not right in there. So I'll resolder that. I'll come back and try it out. I've resoldered all those points just around here. It's warming up. It should be warm now. And hasn't done anything for us. And there's the voltage there, still 50 odd volts. I'm pretty sure this is an intermittent contact problem, just because it did come good for a second. I was just going to prod around. There must be something loose somewhere. Nothing's happening. This is hard to work out then. I'll put another 6AN7 in there and see if that makes a difference. I put another valve in and it's intermittently working.
Doesn't matter. It changes every day. Like every day I have a different song.
It's not the valve, I'm sure. It's not the socket. I think I'm flexing the board. Oh, look at that.
Brother, who'd just come back from.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the board. Now if I flex the board, it's not doing anything. The other end of that ends up here going into the coil, so I checked the coil's got continuity, I was going to say. That is a dodgy looking solder right there. That'll be it. There we go. Okay, that's going to work for sure. It doesn't work. This voltage is back down to 59. Now, there's another possibility. I think there's supposed to be a component in that hole. Okay, there's a link on the other side of the board that's let go. I don't know if I did that or it wasn't connected, but I'll just solder that on. Okay, the power's on. Look, we've got 80 volts now. This will work for sure. There it is.
Since the early 1970s. Unfortunately, it's been over 40.
Better turn that off. That's all it was. I think it was that wire, when I've soldered it, the little links popped out. Anyway, it's all back together. That would have been it. It's so hard to find something like that. I should have gone around and just resoldered all the dodgy looking solders, but anyway.
Someone from the community is going to look after the young child that was on the plane.
Great, that's working great. All right, I've connected my phone up here with some music on it. So that should be phono. All right, so there's the phono jack. It should work in one of these. There it is. Doesn't sound very good. So the other one should be that one. Oh. So there's definitely a difference in the outputs there. So one is not working properly. Now you might be able to hear that. There's a bit of noise. This is the speaker that's not putting out as much volume. And there's some sort of capacitor noise going on in there, probably a resistor or something. I need to go and clean all this up. I've got to get the proper size resistor to fit in there. And then I need to go around and clean up all the solders, the bad soldering, all the burnt wires got to be replaced. But in the meantime, I'll just go down and work on the amplifier, get rid of the low volume and the crackling that's in there. So I'll sort that out as well and change some of the wiring down there, obviously. As I said last night, I have a look at this amplifier board. I had some music running in this for an extended period, and this left-hand channel started to distort. So I swapped over a valve I had in another box, put it in here, and it hasn't distorted since. Unfortunately, my phone's gone flat, so I can't play any more music, but it hasn't distorted up until that time anyway, so we'll find out later on if it's still got the problem. As we discovered last night, this left-hand channel has got that crashing noise in the background. You should be able to hear it there. It gets worse than that. That's with the volume turned down, so it's in the amplifier somewhere. Before I do anything, I'm going to replace these electrolytics, and that may well cure the problem. So I went down the shop this morning, I bought a load of stuff. This is what I need for this radio, and I replaced these electrolytics here with these ones and these guys here. I also went around and tested all the resistors, and they are all high. Every one of them's high. They're probably just out of their 10%, but not much more. There's 3 that were 20% easily over, so I'm going to replace them. I did put little marks on them, but I've noted the position on the board anyway. So I'll just replace that, and I've got some new resistors here too. I replaced those capacitors, a bit hard to see, but here they are there. So there's those 2, and there's a couple of 10 microfarad ones in there somewhere. There. I swapped the valves over as well, just to isolate, see if the problem goes with it. My phone's been charged, so I'll just see if it works. I'm plugged into here.
Once I was 7 years
So that's working. They're both channels are working now. They sound similar. I haven't heard a peep out of this speaker as far as the static's concerned. So, but I'm just going to let it run for a while because sometimes it sits there for a while and doesn't do anything. So I'll go and have a cup of coffee, leave this running and just monitor it and see if it makes any noise. I've had this running on and off over a few hours, and that noise is not there at the moment, but it does come back occasionally. But at the moment, it's dead silent. The radio's going, and there's no noise at all. This speaker here is disconnected. I've got that channel running through the dummy load. So I've only got this one going. I've got this signal tracer injector kit here. It's a K7000 if you want to look it up. I think I got it off eBay. It's been sitting on the shelf for years, a couple of years, and I've never put it together. So last night I thought, to help me trace this, I might put this together. So I spent a couple of hours last night putting it together. And here it is here. I've just got it in a plastic box. It'd be better in a metal box, but this is what I had lying around. Now, because this is just an audio signal, I can just use this lead off the oscilloscope to run the test. I'll try it on here. This should work. Yeah, there we go.
Vehicle charging facility installed at your home, but maybe that was something that you put there. It certainly wasn't something that the government said you needed. Right?
So that's working. All I've got to do now is wait for the speaker to make a noise or the fault to occur. All right, I'll pause the video now. Wait till the noise comes back and we'll see if it's present there. I'll just work out what that is. It's one of the grids, I think. Might be the plate. Oh, okay, there it is. As soon as I turn the video off, it started. There you go, you can hear it in there. All right, I better work out what that is. I'm using the spare board to work out where the pins go. So I think I'm clipped on here, which is the ECL86. So I think I'm on there. If I come back one here, so that'll be pin number 1, and see if the noise is there. All right, I've got on pin 1 of the ECL86, but the noise is gone. Once again, I'll pause the video, we'll come back when it shows up. There's a little bit of noise come through now. I'm on that one there, which I think is here. So I don't think there's enough signal there for my little detector to pick it up. So maybe come back to the plate here. I'll put it on there, wherever that is. And it should be here. So I can't hear anything coming out of here, but I can hear it in the main speaker. I'll just try back here again. Yeah, there's just not enough signal on that grid to power this enough to overcome the noise that it's making, so I can't hear anything in there. But just putting my ear right up to it, I can't hear anything there. So it's here, but it's not there. Now that's the power supply coming in there. I wonder if you get some noise on that. I just checked the right hand channel and this supplies the same power supply to it, and there's no noise from the right hand channel, so it's not likely to be coming in there. What can it be? It's got to be this valve. What if I check that? There won't be anything there. Number pin 2. So that'll be this capacitor down here. No noise from here, so it's not on the cathode. I'll swap out this 12AX7. It does stop when you take that out. I think this is about the 3rd valve I've put in it. That 12AX7's out and it's still making the noise. I'm getting nowhere here. Alright, I did a bit more probing. I've got it on here, which is the varistor across this primary here, and it's making a racket. Here it is here, and it's supposed to have a coating. Oh, listen to it. It's supposed to have a coating of paint on it, so maybe that's the problem. I've been looking at these and thinking, oh no, it must be alright. Take it off there. I'll change that resistor. I don't know if that's it or not, because I am on the plate, so it's quite a good signal here. So it's going to have the noise on it. So whether that's causing it, I don't know, but I'll change it and I'll get rid of it. There's the new VDR resistor, or voltage dependent resistor they call it. Now I've got the probe on there, the radio's going, and there is not a sound, not a whisper. So I'll put the 12AX7 back and we'll see what it does. Alright, it's up running again, and I've got my probe on. There's no noise, but the speaker's still making a noise. I've changed that 12AX7 for about the 3rd time, so it's not that. I can swap the valves over. I don't think it is. I think that's about the 3rd valve I've had in there. I'll swap them over. This one was taken out of that 3rd chassis that's a real mess. So I'll swap those and just see if that makes a difference. I'm running out of ideas. As I thought, swapping those valves made no difference. I've got no idea what's going on here. Any further correspondence for me, just send it to the Maximum Security Home for the Permanently Bewildered, because I don't know what's going on. So I'll go further up here. I think, not sure what that is now. I think that was the grid going into here. This is the plate coming out. So it is sitting there. Yeah, maybe I'm fooling myself. The grids just haven't got enough signal there to power my little tester here. So that definitely sounds like it's there, doesn't it? Here's the same one on the other side. It's got all the same noises, but not the noise. Maybe I should just bite the bullet and replace these three here and shotgun it. All right, I've replaced one. Let's turn this down. I've replaced that one. That was an old Philips one, and there's no noise at all, like nothing. Got this on the grid, can't hear a thing. That's on flat out, there is no noise. So I'm hoping that was the fault, and it was this indestructible Philips poly cap that they keep telling me you can't have an issue with. So I've left that one there. I'll leave it running, but it is dead quiet now. So I've spent a good hour chasing this, not to mention a couple of hours putting this together, probably 3 hours putting that together. If that's it, I'll be over the moon. I don't want to waste any more time on this. These speakers are so quiet, you wouldn't even know it was running. I'll just turn it, maybe it isn't running. Hey, let's go. Fantastic. All right, I'll let it run for an hour or so. Just sit here and read a book and listen out and see if it comes back. Last night I just sat here for a while and listened to this for about an hour or so, and this morning turned it back on, turn it off, turn it on. There's no noise at all, so that capacitor was the problem. Now, something I didn't think of, and someone in the comments for another video said, why don't you use a bit of freeze spray? Of course, I got freeze spray sitting there and it didn't even occur to me. So I could have just hit these capacitors and see if it changed the symptom as it was going. So I'll remember that for next time. Another thing I discovered last night when I was sitting here was that this probe, I put it on 1 in the morning to start the testing, and somehow when I looked at it last night, it was in the by 10. So I don't know when it changed. So that would account for why I couldn't get anything off the grid, because I had it in 10x. I got a big resistor sitting in there. So I'll just turn on my little tracer here, and I'll turn the radio up.
Your time, how many rides you get.
Now I've got it on 10. You can't hear anything.
Just based on whatever turns up.
And put it on 1 that's loud and clear.
That to me is not secure work.
How have you seen the gig economy change or adapt?
So back to 10, yeah. So I really don't know when that changed. So I was fighting my own stupidity trying to do this yesterday. If you're using a oscilloscope probe, make sure it's on 1. And that little signal tracer injector thing works pretty well. I put a big capacitor in the line there, so that any DC didn't get back into the tester. So that's built into the box. All right, I think the next thing to do is turn this over, and I'm going to repair all the solder joints and the wiring. All right, the chassis is upside down. I'm going to go through these 2 boards here from one side to the other and remove all the dodgy solder. I'll probably just do most of them actually. Remove the solder, resolder it properly, and maybe try and repair this wire that's been hit with the soldering iron. And just make sure it's all neat and reliable, and we're not going to have any trouble with it down the road. So I'll get stuck into it with a solder sucker, and I'll come back in a minute. I've finished this now. Took a little while, but not too bad. I put the radio on behind me and just quietly worked away. It was okay. I've replaced a lot of the wiring down here, up here, resoldered all the not all the joints, but all the ones that looked a bit, not so good, and cleaned the boards up. So I'm happy to leave it at that. I'll flip it over and make sure it still works. It's the right way up now. I put all the valves in. I took them out while I had it upside down, otherwise it sits on the valves. So I'll power it up. I've got speakers on. I'll put it on dim bulb. I'll just watch what happens there. I had a lot of wires off at once, so there's quite a chance that I could put them in the wrong place. No, that looks pretty good.
Organisations kept our industry going since April last year. Unlike Other people who have lost everything and have not worked since April last year, we have worked.
All right, that looks perfect. I'll just turn it on. It should be about 53 or something, I think it came up with normally. Yeah, about there. Okay, everything looks normal.
To air a number of grievances about lockdowns, mask wearing and vaccines. Rachel Neely reports.
The high-vis crowd of protesters threw projectiles at...
Weed, certain rock.
come together.
I cleaned the dial up too and cleaned up the paint behind here as well. So that looks good too. I'm going to do a quick check of the alignment. I don't think it'll be wrong. Everything's still sealed up. There's no reason it would have changed. But I'll just make sure. There's a pointer alignment mark there. I'll just run it up to that. And looking straight on at it, it's perfect. It's exactly right. Alright, it seems the IF frequency is out a little bit, and so's the station alignment on the dial. I've got this on 455, which is the IF frequency. I move it up and down, and it improves when I get up to about 458. So it's a little bit out. So I'll have to adjust it. Here's the adjusters here, pretty easy to get to, very good, actually, right on the top. So I can't turn the speakers off, we have to listen to the noise. I've taken the seal off these IF transformers. These are a very weird setup. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm starting to regret having taken it off at all. So I'll just set the meter up about halfway somewhere. There you go. And I have to use the screwdriver. The little slot is so tiny. Yeah, it should be right. It's about that one. Okay. Now these have to be sealed up. You can almost just push these in and out. They're so loose. So I'm going to run the generator and put some hot glue on there or something. I'll probably use hot glue, that'll be alright. And just make sure it doesn't move. And I'll come back and we'll do the RF. I've put hot glue on there. It's not pretty. The hot glue will come off easily enough if we need to get in there again sometime. So I'm happy with that. I don't think they're going to move, and they're all peaked perfectly. Alright, next step of course is the RF. I'll run down the end. The bottom setting for the RF, the oscillator, is at 525, which should align with that datum mark there, I would think. In the camera it looks a bit out, but if you look head on, it's perfectly on that line. The frequency to set it is 525, which I've got on the generator. And the adjustment is that one there. That's the oscillator adjustment. Sounds a bit weird. I think that's it. It's got a lot of noise in the back there. I'll move away. I'll go to 600 and set it up there. This 7ZL there, that's 600. So I'm right on the mark there. I've changed the generator to 600. I'll see if I can get it here. There it is. Let's turn the volume up a little. Getting some strange noises there. Alright, the next one is to run it up to 1500, which is 38k. I'll put the meter on 1500, there we go. And I'll put it on 38k, I'll turn it up. It's not there. Yeah, okay. There's no real way of spreading it on this. It's all done with the windings on the coil in the permeability tuning. So all I have to do here is peak this. And that was it anyway. So that's it. So it's a little bit out on 38k. It should be over here. It's there. Now I could go back to the 600 and just make it a little bit, just move it along a little bit. I'll do that. So I've got it back at ZL there, and I've got the generator on 600. And what I can do is just move it along a tiny smidgen, like that. Retune this. not much in it. I'll go back to 15 and it should be just a little bit closer. So 15 on the generator. Yeah, so it's a bit nicer. That's okay. I'll leave it there. I'll just peek that again. Should be right. There we go. Now, so that's the end of the alignment. I know the radio works perfectly. That noise has gone completely. So after a little bit of mucking around, which a lot of it was my fault, my inexperience, it's finally working very, very nicely. So I'm happy to send this back, and this can go back in the radiogram. Now for my next trick, I'm going to try and reassemble the one that's in pieces. Okay, so this is it. I'm going to put this all back together and see if I can make it work. And just to recap, this was the original chassis out of the guy's radio. He took this in because one of the channels stopped working, and this is how he got it back. So I've got to try and work out, I assume the channel still doesn't work. I have no idea why you would pull all this out because one channel wasn't working. Anyway, there was a plan somewhere, I'm not sure what it was. Now I thought I'd be proactive and check all the resistors before I put this board back. This one here is open. I can't get a reading on that. Now here's its friend here. This is 220k and it's reading 476. That's double. Alright, so that one's open. That means that output valve would never have worked. That's the left channel, and that was the one that failed. So maybe that's all that was ever wrong with this. So I'll continue on, I'll check all the resistors, and I'll replace any that I find that are open or just way too high. I've checked both of these boards now, and there's the list of resistors I need to replace. So I've got to go to the shop and buy some. I haven't got them in half watt. I've got 1 watt, but I don't want to up the wattage for no reason. So I'm going to head to the shop and I'll come back and put them in. I've changed all the faulty resistors on the board, so that looks good. There's all the resistors I replaced, and every one of them's out of tolerance. All one's open circuit. So all I have to do now is mount this in here. If it goes that way, I think it does. And flip it over and connect all the wires. Having checked all the resistors, all the capacitors, I've checked all the solders, I should be able to plug this in and it'll just work. So I'll just bend these over to lock the board in. The boards are locked in. I'll turn this over. Now I'll turn it upside down. I'll use the other chassis that I just did as a template so I know where the wires go. But a pretty simple job really. Just this wire goes here, this wire goes here, this wire goes here, this wire goes on here, and this wire goes on here, and this wire goes on here. It's all done. And it's come out nice. It's very good. A lot of the wires had just been snipped, so I had to stretch them or join them or replace them. This has taken most of the morning to do. But it's all done and looks pretty good. I'll flip it over and we'll give it a test. I've turned it up the right way. I've got some speakers on. I've wired everything up. There's some valves at the back here standing by. I haven't got any valves in at the moment. I'm just going to put power on with no valves in it. So it's just testing the transformer here. I've got it on dim bulb, of course, and 240 odd volts there. So nothing on. We should get maybe 3 or 4 watts that the transformer, it's not turned on. Hang on. Yeah, 3 or 4 watts. There you go. So that's just the transformer. Alright, that's okay. I'll put the rectifier in and see what happens. Power on again. Alright, that's settled down at about 8.5 watts, so that seems okay. I don't know what it would have been. So I'll stick the 2 power valves in, or the output valves. Let's try that. A little bit more. The globe's not coming on, so there's no dead shorts. Alright, I'll put the rest in. So it's a 12AX7. There's the 6N8, that's the IF amplifier. 6AN7. Alright, let's put some power on. And we watch the globe this time. Oh, there's the noise. Seems to be more out of that side than that. Yeah, it's only one side working properly. Alright, now what are we on here? Works.
Love, death and faith. I'm Meredith Lake, with you for Soul Search on RN, and I guess you could say...
How about that?
They took you to see this painting because they love it, you know, because they love it or because it was famous, whatever the case may be. There you are, standing in front of this painting. And you know it's a big deal.
That's the
you know, there are lots of people keen.
That's the balance, and they seem to be both working now. Apart from the apparent balance in the sound being slightly off, everything's working. Now this is not something I'm used to. I usually bugger something up in there, but I might have got it this time. The valves are all right. Yeah, so that one's dirty. I've cleaned that. I cleaned all the valves. So this one needs some attention. I'll fix that. So I'll clean that valve. I'll swap them over to see if the problem goes over with it. Might be just a weak valve. I swapped those two valves over, and when I swapped it over to here, it started sparking, and here it is here. So I've taken that out and put this one in. Now everything's stable. I cleaned up all the bases again. I retensioned the base on this one, and yeah, it's good now. Now I'm just trying the points here. This is where the music studio panel plugs in. That one there's for the phono, so it works in the phono one. You can just hear the music there. And it should be this one here, I think, and this one. Nope, that one. Nope, that one. Yeah, no, these two. So that's working as well. It's all balanced now. The sound is perfect. The only other thing to do now is an alignment. I'm not going to subject you to that. I'll just quickly check it. If it's okay, I'll move on. I'm just checking the alignment. Will show you quickly. I've put it on 455. That's close enough. I'm not playing around with these again. They're far too fragile to be mucking around with if I don't need to. So I'm going to center the dial on that mark, and it's gone way past it, so I need to pull that up a bit. Now I should be able to just slide that along. I'll put the generator on 600, and I will tune the radio to ZL. That's 600. Turn it up a bit, and we're not quite on it, so I'll find the... Okay, so it's a little bit out. I haven't got the meter on. I'm just going to do this by ear. Alright, so I need to move that down there a bit. So I've just made it a little bit to the side here of the 600, so it's about 605 or something. So I'll go up to 1500, which is 38k here. Change that to 15, and where are we? Nothing there. It's exactly the same as yesterday. It's just a bit that way. So I'm going to leave it like that. Most of the stations we listen to are down this end, so it's probably better, it's more accurate at this end. Now, as we saw yesterday, this is the only other adjustment. This is the trimmer for the antenna coil. So all we have to do is make sure the antenna and the oscillator are aligned. So I'll turn this up and just maximize it. That's it. That's good enough. I've connected the radio's antenna to the external antenna, and if we go down here, 612 is just above ZL. There it is. So I just pull that around a bit. There's ZL. Yeah, so that's perfect. And next one's KQ on the top line there. There it is. So right there. Beautiful. All right. Now, just to make sure this doesn't move, I'll just put a little of this stuff on. It's just nail polish. This is a gel nail polish, so it doesn't soak in or anything. That'll just hold it there. Works pretty well. Alright, I'm going to leave this run for a couple of hours and make sure it all works well, but gosh, it seems to be working pretty good. Wow, this is working so well. This has been running for a day or so. It hasn't missed a beat. There's no sort of background noise. There's nothing. It's perfect. Absolutely works perfectly. Now, I didn't mention before, but these two electrolytic capacitors are brand new. They were replaced by the guy that had this before me. Now, I tested all the valves and I picked out the best ones for this set. I was able to get another good set for the other chassis. The valves that I ended up using tested very well. Now, I removed this dial glass. I cleaned it with some damp tissue at the back and a bit of window cleaner on the front, and it's come up really nice. I cleaned up the backing as well, the black behind there. I also cleaned up the knobs. They're not real good. They're a bit corroded. They're an aluminium disc in there. So if it was my radio, I would try and remove those discs by soaking them in something till the glue let go, polish them up, cover them with clear coat and then put them back. But it's not my radio, so if the gentleman wants to do that, he can. I do want to check the voltages. I checked the voltages on the other one. They were down a little bit. I want to check this one as well. So I'll flip it over and we'll have a look underneath. I've flipped the radio over. Here's all the HT section here. There's the rectifier at the bottom of it. To test the radio, I've got 240 volts going into it. Rectified DC comes out of pin 3. The first stop is 260 volts. There's a resistor, 250, resistor, 210, resistor, 190. This circle of terminals here is the rectifier. That's 1, 2 and 3. That's pin 3. So we come along here. This is supposed to be 260, 259. This should be 250, 247. Another resistor. This one should be 210. And I got 211. And this one should be 190, 183.5. This morning I was having a look around this area. I hadn't looked at this area before, and I noticed this wire here, this wire here. These go off to the switch, the main switch on the front panel. And they were just sitting there. They managed to pick up one strand of the wire. They were just covered with solder, but they weren't actually soldered onto the connection. It was staying there, but that's about all. I was able to just lift them off with my finger. So there's the 240 volts running through that. It was the same deal with this wire here. This is just a ground strap to stop any interference in the mains there. This wire here goes off to the center tap. So that's going to ground. And this wire here were just sitting in the hole. They weren't soldered at all. So whoever did this is a real amateur. You're not allowed to shoot people, but it does spring to mind. Here's the cable here. Here's the other end going to the power switch. Now this is a double pole switch. Philips had only used the top two here, and these two had failed. That wasn't working anymore. So what they did was take these off here, join the two wires together, and then put some heat shrink around them, and that was the fix. So what I've done is solder them back on and put little links down to the second contacts in there, and now we can use the second contacts, which you would have thought would have been the thing you would have done in the first place. I didn't put these directly on here because it gets a bit too close to this little shield here. So now the on-off switch works. Before you would have had to just turn it off at the wall. I can't understand it. If you were going to short it out, why wouldn't you take this off and just put a little jumper across here and get rid of this instead of having it floating around inside the set? So what I'll do now is get the other chassis out and we'll have a last look at them. I've got the speakers out of the radiogram here, so I'll set them up and we'll have a listen to it with the real speakers on it. Well, welcome to the grand finale. I've set up two speakers out of the radiogram, the silver ones at the back there. The left chassis is powering the two silver speakers that are out of the original radiogram. The right chassis is powering the two test speakers I use all the time. I'll turn up the one on the test speakers. Now I'll turn up the one on the real speakers. Now, of course, I can't play those for very long. I've tuned in the ABC radio so I won't get any copyright.
You're listening to Kato Tool on ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland.
G'day, and I
hope you're enjoying your Saturday morning. It's all getting a bit exciting. It's all getting towards finals time, and we will talk a little about the AFL Grand Final ahead for this weekend and, of course, next week.
I'll turn up the test speaker one as well, just for fun.
Zane Bojack, it's all about the cricket. G'day.
Ah, just breathe in.
You like that
and breathe
soundtrack?
in. Oh, that got me there.
Yeah, a bit of difference between the two speakers. Now, listening to music on these big speakers, it's so clear. AM, I didn't think AM would get that good, but it's brilliant. It's not FM quality, but it gets all the highs and lows. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now, when the guy first contacted me about these radios, he said, he said the left channel doesn't work. He tried to get it fixed and told me the whole story. And I said, no, yeah, okay, bring them down. If you want to drive 700k to bring them down, please do. So he did, brought them down and put them on my bench and they're in bits. And I said, well, hang on, that's a bit more than what I thought. But I have had an absolute ball putting these together, and particularly the one that had been completely stripped down for whatever reason. And I was able to rebuild it, and it works beautifully. They both work exactly the same, and they're really good machines. As I said, I had so much fun with these, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. I really do. These were just something a bit special, and unfortunately I haven't got the whole radio ground to put it all together. But if you did enjoy watching this, I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.